We had to wait 2 weeks, watch all the carnage unfold, and figure out who they were going to play. And now it's our turn to play the game. And for my San Francisco 49ers, they are back in action this Saturday night under the bright lights of prime time as they get ready to play their first playoff game of the 2023 NFL playoffs in the NFC Divisional playoffs as they get ready to host the 7th-seeded Green Bay Packers. So, yeah, for this divisional playoff matchup, the Niners are going to be hosting this one as the number 1 seed in the NFC. They had a first-round bye, so they got some time to relax, have some practices in during the bye week, and get some key players back into action. More on that in a bit. But, when I look at this playoff matchup, it's actually kind of a little interesting. The roles have been reversed kind of bit, because if you look at the last time these last two teams met, it's ironically it'll be on this weekend 2 years ago. The game that I thought the 49ers, who were a 6th seed at the time back in 2021, or actually 2022, well, whichever way you want to put it. But I'm calling it 2021 because that was when the actual playoffs were. But nonetheless, that was the game that I thought, wouldn't have made it to, because I thought it was Delulu. I thought it was crazy because, how they were at the time. And I thought it was kind of a fluky, but, hey, I may be a Niners fan, but, I keep my expectations a little bit in check unless, things happen. But nonetheless, they upsetted the 3-seeded Dallas Cowboys in that weird and wacky game. And, my feelings on how those damn kids robbed Jimmy Garoppolo of the Nickelodeon MVP. And the kids voted for Dak Prescott, but we're sidetracking here. So the next game, they go visit the top seeded Green Bay Packers up in Green Bay. It is going to be in that same prime time spot that they're going to be in now. And just how I felt like they were going to be in Dallas, I thought they were going to get smashed. I thought they were going to get blown out to bits and pieces on the way out to Aaron Rodgers and those top seed Packers. One of the perennial favorites in the NFC to represent in the Super Bowl. But instead what happened was both teams got into this defensive back and forth. Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy G, played very poorly, got destroyed by both teams' defenses, and it actually came down to special teams in the end because the slowly deteriorating weather conditions, and it was the Niners special teams that came through in the clutch. Less than 5 minutes to go, all of us remember this, how it went down. They block a punt. Talanoa Hufanga recovers the punt that nobody managed to find. He recovers the block punt, took it to the end zone to tie the game up. And then minutes later, the Niners go on this 2-minute drill drive, and they get it into field goal range. Robbie Gould breaks the hearts of Packers fans, and even the commentators on Fox were like, "Oh man," I'm just kidding. But nonetheless, they win a game that nobody predicted, not even myself predicted to win. But they won the game 13-10 and would end up going to the NFC Championship game that they would also end up losing to the Rams. But hey, here they are 2 years later in this kind of role reversal scenario. The Niners in the top seeded spot, and then for the Green Bay Packers, they are the 7th seeded, as some people are calling the underdogs, and the Niners being the perennial favorite. So had a little bit of a role reversal here, pal. So in terms of last week for both of these teams, obviously my Niners were on a bye week, but the last time they were in some meaningful action, discounting week 18 where nobody was really playing. Like I said, they had the first round bye, but week 17 was their last meaningful action in Washington. They were coming off a pretty bad performance on Christmas night against the Baltimore Ravens, but Brock Purdy had himself a get-right game against the lowly Washington Commanders. And he had himself a get-right performance. So did the defense. They got themselves a comfortable win, and that was also when they clinched the number 1 seed, getting some help from their division rivals, the Arizona Cardinals, in that major upset win over the Philadelphia Eagles. So that was the most meaningful action. So it's been a very long while, like 3 weeks to be exact by this point, that they played some actual football. Meanwhile, for the 7th-seeded Green Bay Packers, they began their playoff journey by going to Jerry's World in Dallas, Texas. And from the jump, oh boy, everyone counted them out. I certainly did not pick them to win this game. And boy, they whooped the Stars and Stripes off the 2-seeded NFC East champion Dallas Cowboys. So Dallas, they stay in the fight to get the NFC East from the Philadelphia Eagles, and this was their reward. Jordan Love in the offense, with nothing to lose, was well efficient, throwing for 3 touchdowns to Romeo Doubs, Luke Musgrave, and others. Running back Aaron Jones, killing the Cowboys on the ground with 3 touchdowns of his own and over 100 yards rushing. Meanwhile, the Packers defense completely rendered the Cowboys offense that was led by Dak Prescott and had been so good at home, pretty ineffective, and intercepted Dak Prescott twice, all in the first half, one for a pick 6 by safety Darnell Savage. And so all in all, a total beatdown in the Big D that the final score doesn't even indicate how it went down. It was 48-32, but the Cowboys tried to make a very late, but too little too late rally. But yeah, an emphatic beatdown in Dallas. And so embarrassing that Jerry Jones is like, ugh, god damn. This is so embarrassing that yet he's not going to fire Mike McCarthy after that. So yeah, pretty embarrassing stuff there. But hey, it put the Niners on notice, on watch. So these Packers, to end the season, they're a young, very young, red hot team, the youngest team in the league. Yet Jordan Love playing some mostly well football in the last month, besides a few hiccups against the Giants, the Bucks, and the Panthers. Even though they won against the worst team in the league, but they allowed Bryce Young to play pretty well in that game. But I digress. The Packers are, they're playing pretty well, and they're coming off that really big game against the Cowboys. But yeah, you really can't slack on the Pack in this game. I mean, sure, they have their flaws. I mean, so do we. But yeah, this is a team you cannot sleep on. No doubt about it. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, they're coming in with a lot of talent on this team. So considering all the threats that are that are against the Niners, like the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Rams, they're all gone. So pretty much essentially starting with this game against the Packers, there's basically no excuse for the Niners to quote unquote finish the story. As good old Cody Rhodes, I'll do it for my dad and all that. And for the 49ers, we got to do it for Brock Purdy. We got to finish the story, pal. That starts on Saturday. There's literally no more excuses to go represent the NFC and go to the Super Bowl, face whoever, and win the damn thing. Get your redemption, pal. Meanwhile, a little side note, the Washington Commanders do have a new general manager, and they fleeced it from us. Assistant general manager Adam Peters is the new general manager for the Commanders. Don't know too much about him, but he, I guess, was key to getting all these guys that we do know now. So, man, everyone's saying it's a big loss. So if it is a big loss, then damn. I hope they find a good successor for him. John Lynch, hopefully he gets a good successor in line for the 49ers. In terms of the injury report for both of these teams going into this game, this is not the final injury report at the time I'm recording this, so make it for what you will. So for the Packers, they lost a key rotational edge rusher in that wildcard game. So for as much as they won, it came at a price a little bit. Kingsley Enagbare, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, he tore his ACL late in that wildcard game. So that pass rush depth is gonna get a little thin, but not too much. You still got some depth there, but you lost a rotational piece there. So he's out for a good several months. But for the context of this game, that's a loss right there. Corner Jair Alexander re-aggravated an ankle injury he suffered in practice prior to the wild card game, and he re-aggravated in the game itself. But as of right now, Coach Matt LaFleur is hoping that he can get Alexander to practice on the final practice on Thursday. And if he does, then there's a likelihood that he could play in this game. But if he doesn't, then there's also a likelihood that he could be out for this game. And if he is out, then the other corner, Corey Ballantyne, will be the next man up. Backup running back A.J. Dillon, who missed the last 2 games of the regular season with the neck stinger, still hasn't practiced. So if he doesn't practice by Thursday, likelihood that he's out. I mean, the running game was doing all right anyway with Aaron Jones in their backup, so they should be fine. So interesting to note, Green Bay is doing these walkthrough practices instead of the usual regular ones like the 49ers are, because, it's only like 5 days worth of practices. 5 days till the actual game itself, because it is played on a Saturday. So just keep that in mind. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, they had the bye week. They're still going hard at these practices because, they don't want to be all rusty and shit. But the key thing for the 49ers is that many of their players are coming back for this game. Some of them missed a couple of weeks, but a few of them missed about a month. So the good thing here for the 49ers is that most of them are coming back healthy and ready to come back to play for this game. 2 of those key players include defensive tackle Eric Armstead. He missed the last month with a nagging foot issue, so he returned to practice during the bye week. And the big thing was he was a full participant on Wednesday, so he looks like he's ready to roll for this game against the Packers, which is big for the run defense, trying to stop Aaron Jones. So really big report there. Meanwhile, Juwan Jennings, the third down receiver, and Juwan, whatnot, he finally cleared the concussion protocol during bye week practices. And it was a little surprising to me that it took him a little while to clear concussion protocol. But hey, at least he's healthy, ready to go. That's what's more important. Christian McCaffrey is a full go. He suffered a calf injury in week 17. I mean, it was good that he didn't play week 18, and he had practically almost 3 weeks of rest, so he's ready to go. Safeties Jair Brown and Tashawn Gibson, who had their own naggy injuries, were also back in practice. So was corner Ambry Thomas, who had hand surgery after the week 17 game, also back in practice. And this is an interesting one. Safety and special teams player George Odom, he tore his biceps back at the Thanksgiving game in Seattle. He had surgery on that torn biceps, and he's back in practice. And he also took off that blue non-contact jersey. So he's back in practice in a limited fashion. So the Niners are going to have to make a decision on whether they're going to activate him off IR, designate him to return, but we'll see. It'll be great, but there's always risk to that. But if he's healthy to go, then that's up to them. The only player that's not going to play in this game, that's not expected to, is edge rusher Clinton Farrell. He got injured in week 18. There's a possibility that he could miss the rest of the playoffs in general. Hence why they signed a guy by the name of Austin Bryant to the practice squad, just in case. In terms of the keys to victory for both of these teams, for the Packers, on the defensive side, you got to find ways to force Brock Purdy into errant turnovers. And yeah, there's this quote going around by Devontae Wyatt of, if you get pressure, you can force Brock Purdy into turnovers. I mean, to a point. Everyone's like looking at, it's just the Baltimore game. But, it is with every quarterback, there's a point to those certain things. So, yeah, the Packers pass rush is going to be down a player in the rotation. It's going to be up to defensive coordinator Joe Barry to scheme up ways for his front four to get to Purdy. Because, San Francisco's offensive line, it's not exactly the greatest. It's still very problematic. So that front four of Devontae Wyatt, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, and others, it's going to be on them to create a great amount of pressure and force Purdy into a good amount of mistakes, especially if they can keep him in the pocket. On offense, do what you did last week. Spread the ball around and attack the Niners in the secondary, which, it's still a weak spot for them at times. Something, the Niners are good at is something that the Packers were also good at in Dallas, spreading the wealth to a number of people, whether it be to Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Devontae Wicks, and Luke Musgrave, the tight end. Like all these rookies, most of them are rookies, by the way, keep in mind. Jordan Love didn't rely on just one person to kill the Cowboys defense. He was pretty much pepper spraying the ball in the air. And if they continue to do that against the 49ers secondary, then this is going to be a much closer game. Probably the potential for a shootout that the Niners secondary is going to have to find ways to account for all those players. Meanwhile, for my 49ers, you got to slow down that Packers offense. And that starts with cutting off Aaron Jones. The Cowboys pretty much had no answer in cutting off any part of the Green Bay offense. And that was because from the get-go, the Packers started killing them with running back Aaron Jones on the ground. Like I said, he accounted for 3 touchdowns and over 100 rushing yards. But the Niners know their run defense, it's been hot garbage since they didn't have Eric Armstead with them. But even with Eric Armstead returning to the lineup, they cannot allow a repeat performance from Aaron Jones in their first playoff game returning from a bye week. So they stop Aaron Jones in the running game. It allowed the defense to further zone in on Jordan Love, who will realize that, I got to start throwing more. So slowing down the Packers offense starts with cutting off Aaron Jones. And then on offense, you got to utilize everyone to beat up that Packers flawed defense. So for as solid as that front four is on the Packers side, their secondary is not exactly that otherworldly. When you look at Brock Purdy, he has a variety of weapons as well. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Now you're getting Juwan Jennings back. I mean, hell, if you have to use Rodney Bell, you might as well go to him as well if he's active. So you look at that Packers secondary. I mean, you got a less than 100% Jair Alexander, and then their safety Darnell Savage, and then their other corners. So this is a unit that gave up several ton of yards to the Giants, to the Bucks, to they even gave up some big plays to the Bears too, if I remember correctly, and then as well as to the Panthers. So this is not exactly an unbeatable unit. This is very beatable for the 49ers to zone in and attack. So they made it this far with a talented core on offense. Now, in their first playoff game of the 2023 playoffs, they have to utilize every single bit under the bright lights of Saturday night. So the key to beating the Packers is utilizing everyone on offense. And that starts with Purdy. That also starts with Kyle Shanahan. So this is going to be an interesting one. Everyone's saying, this is going to be a blowout and all that. We're going to easily take care of them. Let's pump the brakes a bit. This Packers team is red hot. The Niners, coming off a bye week, they're going to be well rested. I think, it could be a little bit closer than you may think, but then the Niners could come in let's say a second half and start going on a run or tear. But we will see. Anything can happen in the playoffs, but let's hope the Niners will take care of their damn business and move on to an NFC Championship game that they certainly need redemption in. So, should be a fun one on Saturday night. Packers, Niners, 10th meeting all time in the playoffs. And both teams gunning for some kind of redemption, especially for the 49ers as they begin their quest to finish the story. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this upcoming playoff game for the 49ers. The NFC Divisional playoffs, their playoff run begins this Saturday in the bright lights of Fox. Not NBC, Fox. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And should be a very interesting one, very exciting one on Saturday night. So I'll be back to recap it when it's done. Should be up whenever, but stay tuned for that when it comes up. So thank you for tuning in. This is DylanLasagna signing out of Very Cold Lasagna. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And as always, keep up with all the playoff coverage on Very Cold Lasagna as well. And until the next one, peace out.